Thank you so much. The Senate, who was engulfed by the statement from one of his own, Senator Ningi from Bauchi State, today has received a punishment from his colleague. The Senate, under the leadership of Senator Opaque, suspended Senator Ningi over allegations of 3.7 trillion budget padding allegations. Senator Ningi is from Bauchi Central Senatorial District and was suspended for 3 months after a long, stormy session in the Red Chamber today. A member of the Appropriations Committee, Senator Jima Ibrahim, was the one who moved the motion for Ningi's suspension for 12 months over allegations of criminal misinformation and breach of peace in the National Assembly and the country by extension. Let me allow you into some of the sound bites which ensued today. First and foremost, let's hear from Senator Ningi what he said on the floor, and we hear also from Senator Opaque.
In this budget that Yari presented to you, I have facts, constituency by constituency. Some 120 billion, some 50 billion, some 30 billion. Mr. President, some have less than 1 billion. Mr. President, as I speak to you, I do not know your take-home pay. You know my own. I do not know the take-home pay of any of the principal officers.
You said in conclusion, but let me just say that in your speech, you tended to deviate from the issues on the floor, and you tended to bundle a lot of issues together.
All right, tell us some of the comments. The debate went further. The Senate went into a rowdy session. Those who were disagreeing over what went to who got what was appropriated between the senators. This caused a lot of disagreement. But let me allow you also to listen to some of the senators. One of those who vehemently said, we are all corporate. One of the senators who told his colleagues that we are all in these, we are all corporate. Take a listen to Senator Jarigbe Agam from Cross River State.
Senator Ningi took this to the public domain, standing up to apologize here. Even after he repeated that some people got 100 billion naira from this budget, some people got 60 billion. What apology are you expecting? Let us do the right thing, and I am saying it as part of the leadership of this Senate. I am not bothered. I was going through online, just as this is going on, it's trending now, that every senator got 500 million. My appeal to Nigerians is not about what was said there today, because I'm not going to deny that. But we have 12 months to implement 2024 budget. Let every Nigerian wait to see whether there is any of these senators who will not bring enough boreholes, enough solar street lights, enough road construction, and other projects, training and empowerment that will be up to 500 million.
Some senators here, so-called senior senators, got 500 million each. I am a ranking senator, I didn't get. Did I go to the press? Most of you got. And yes, if we want to go into those issues, excuse me, if we want to go into those issues, yes. So I think that Senator Ningi.
All right, it's a case of who gets what. You got more than me. I got, you didn't get as much, 500 million. I'm a ranking senator. You got 500. Why am I not get 500? You got 300. That was what it looked like on the floor today. But this is the moment where the man who blew the whistle on his colleagues, and some of these issues got to speak and that got suspended by his own colleagues. Take a listen.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved that in view of the grievous offense of Senator Ningi, that he be suspended. Those in support of 1 year suspension. Okay. Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved by an amendment has been offered by distinguished Senator Ningi and seconded by distinguished Senator Sani that he be suspended for only 3 months from the Senate. Those in support of the suspension for 3 months say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
All right. And so at some point, we saw Senator Ningi take a painful, long walk out of the red chamber. Tonight, we'll be finding out whether what he said was right. This is not the first time. I've had engagement with, in the midst of the storm over budget party in the past. This time it was in the House of Reps. But let's take a look at what exactly is going to happen. We'll be hearing from the man who moved the motion for his suspension, a member of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, who will be speaking with us on the program. But let's get some expert opinion on the budgetary activities and especially the 2024 budget. The co-founder of Budget, Mr. Seun Onigbinde, joins us virtually live from Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Onigbinde, for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. Let's get straight to the point. What is particular or what is spectacular about what Senator Ningi said? Is there any kind of 3 trillion part of the budget that was not public knowledge or that was not known? That looks like the foundation of what got Senator Ningi into trouble.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think as the Senate session was going on, we were also fact-checking and pouring on the numbers within my team. And one of the key things we found out that we were not able to lay hold to the claim by Senator Ningi. A budget of 28.77 trillion was passed into law. We were not able to see in any situation where 3.7 trillion naira, there always, historically, there are items in the budget that do not have breakdown. So, for example, the statutory transfers like the NJC and the NHRC and the NDDC, they don't have statutory breakdown. TED fund, they don't have statutory breakdown. That has been a campaign and advocacy point. But that does not mean that there's a certain level capital projects by the federal government that is now being appropriated and do not have a breakdown. Let's not forget the entire capital project is around 9 trillion naira that was signed into law. So to say there's a 3.7 trillion naira amount somewhere and that amount does not have a breakdown, and we can't find that in the budget now on analysis. So what I expected was him to bring his own breakdown, to say this is what I've looked at, this is what I've checked, and this is what I can find. But it's we don't have evidence to back that up. There are statutory elements in the budget that there are no breakdowns, but that does not seem unusual. It seems like the situation from the past.
All right, so let's take a look at it. In the 2024 budget as presented by President Tinubu on the 29th of May, he presented a budget of 27.50 trillion naira. But by the time the National Assembly passed it, there's been an addition of 1.27 trillion, which now brought the budget to 28.78 trillion. Am I right?
Yes, you're right on that, perfectly right. And if you look at that budget, there is deeper than that. Because part of that budget, the budget we have right now, have the MDA's budget, which is called the Ministries, Department and Agencies budget. Then we also have now the GOE's budget, which is the Government-Owned Enterprises budget. A chunk of that budget, out of that budget, around 2 trillion naira of the budget presented by the president is the Government-Owned Enterprises budget. So if Senator Ningi says there's a 25 trillion naira budget, yes, that is the MDA's budget. It's different from government-owned enterprises, their budget are now just added we have a 27.7 trillion. What the National Assembly, in their own analysis, is to take around 900 billion out of the budget for the GOEs, and they added 1.2 trillion naira, new budgets. So if you look at technically the entire addition, that National Assembly, it might look like 1.2 trillion, but its total sum of the project, based on our analysis and finding, is around 2.2 trillion naira, because the budget for the GOEs was brought down from 1.95 trillion to 1 trillion naira. So they took down the budget of the GOEs, they added another extra 1.2 trillion, and they were able to insert project around 2.2 trillion. That is part of the conversation where we have from the senator that says everybody was indiscriminately getting an allocation for an amount. Some people got 500 million. We've done the analysis. We saw senators that had projects around 13 to 11 billion in their constituency. And it looks like it was a free-for-all. And before this budget was passed, we said the president needs to have a grip of the budget. This is the same thing Muhammadu Buhari's government did. And why he spent so much, he borrowed so much, and he achieved so little. The president is on this same pathway again. The answers will not be different. Why? Because we are not spending money targeted at development. Most of the projects in the budget, there are over 1,000 bulbs, over 700 street lights. In this budget.
So we'll get to those details just in a bit. From part of the analysis that you and your team did, there are areas where maybe that was what Senator Ningi was making reference to, were excluded from the budget breakdown, which include TED Fund, National Judicial Council, the National Assembly, the Public Complaints Commission, going to about 3.3 trillion, isn't it? Why is this unusual, though? If this is what Senator Ningi seemed to have flagged.
It is factual that he says that, but it doesn't mean that we are running two concurrent budgets. There's a different conversation that those projects should be detailed. TED Fund should come and not just get an allocation. What are you spending money on? The INEC has been collecting each sums of funds. There is no public detail about what those funds are used for. The same way with the NJC, even National Assembly. In this current budget, the National Assembly gave a very broad summary of its allocations, but there are no detailed allocations at the granular level that anybody can interrogate. So there is a bigger conversation. So
it shows an opaqueness of some sort. Yeah. So you cannot just say we're spending a particular envelope with figure on it without giving Nigerians the details.
Exactly.
Transparency issues.
These are big transparency issues, and that if you put all those funds together, they're around 3.5 to 3.7 trillion. So if that is what he wants to interrogate on, that there are components of the budget where there are no breakdown, that is very factual. But if the executive and the National Assembly needs to push back and say, we need a breakdown. What is the NJC spending on? We gave more money to the NJC and say, arbitrarily, what are they spending all that money on? There should be a detailed breakdown to the public about the same way you have detailed breakdown of the agriculture budget, the finance budget, the budget of national planning budget. There should be a detailed breakdown of that. I think on that point, Senator Ningi is right. But to look at say we're running two parallel budgets and there's a certain amount that is held back, and no, I don't think that's factual.
So let's go to the part where there seems to be some rumples, and that's where Senator Onigbinde said, look, you got 500 million. I didn't. I'm a ranking senator. It's only perhaps in the political class, it is when they get and did not get that we hear the hue and cry. But let's get to what caught your eyes, Seun? You gave a breakdown of the distribution of the project by value. 7,447 projects, up to 2.24 trillion, was inserted in the 2024 budget. 55 of the projects range about 580 billion, are greater than 5 billion in value. 281 projects worth 491 billion were inserted in the budget. 3,706 of those projects within the range of 100 to 500 million, what 759 billion was also inserted in the budget. Give us a breakdown. Why does this look like a discrepancy to you?
It's a big problem. And if you look at it, this did not start with the National Assembly. This started with the 9th National Assembly. This whole arbitrarily indiscriminate insertion of projects by the National Assembly where, because I agree to some extent that appropriation powers belong to the National Assembly, but powers must be used in a responsible manner. That is what I believe. The National Assembly has gotten to a point that it now, after the budget has been presented by the executive, it carves out an amount for itself. It allocates those amounts to each of the senators. Let's not forget, previously, there was a constituency fund for projects, and that was 100 billion naira. And everybody agreed that if that is the sacrifice you are going to make to allow the budget to be passed, if that's what you're going to use to oil the wheels of budget passing, let us have that. And if you're going to raise that to 200 billion or 250 billion, considering that the budget is now have gotten bigger compared to previous years, that's fine. But for you to now go and add over 7,000 projects to the budget at over 2.2 trillion naira, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, and you gave us the details of how these budgets, the breakdown. For example, you gave us categories. Yeah, categories. 1,150 street lights worth 212 billion, 427 boreholes worth 82.5 billion, 170 ICT projects with a value of 30.95 billion, 7.61 billion for empowerment of traditional rulers. Yes, you heard it right. For empowerment of traditional rulers. Seun.
We are bringing the churches. People now put construction of Anglican church hall in the budget. And that's what we have become now. It's no longer about what is framed as national development. This is not a local government budget. This is not a state budget. This is the government of the federal government of Nigeria. And it's now become so indiscriminate that everybody now inserts. And the president did not take its time to review the budget. And this could have taken 3 or 4, 5 days to analyze, push back a little bit, and now get a proper budget.
I mean, do you think, Seun, that maybe the president or the executive does not have the time to scrutinize all the National Assembly and twisted because of their own influence and their powers of appropriation to ensure that they get all of this into at a time that we said Nigeria does not have money?
No, I mean, politics, governance in democracy is about forbearance. It's not because you have every power that you have to use it. It's about understanding that what is important in the bigger goal. What is the bigger goal out here? We are supposed to be in a period of fiscal tightening. We knew what lose money in the economy, what it did to the imbalances in the economy. Because at the end of the day, if you don't generate the revenues to deliver this project, what are you going to do about it? You likely start borrowing for some of these projects that do not have value, or you also now go and do ways and means because you are under pressure to deliver some of these projects. So we are lying to ourselves at the end of the day.
So,
we are trying to tighten on the monetary side, but not use on the fiscal side. It will never add up.
The part of the conversation you and I had before this program that broke my heart, I'd like you to conclude and anchor on it. The part where projects were categorized and pushed to MDAs or even cooperative organizations that don't have capacity to execute. And they say that it's anchored for accountability purposes. Give us an understanding just in about 60 seconds so that we can anchor. This particular one made my heart bleed, except someone explains to me what I do not understand.
So you have a problem, and the Ministry of Agric is the biggest culprit of this, and maybe because he was a former senator. You have the executive proposed 363 billion for the Ministry of Agric budget. It came out with naira 93 billion, over 600 billion. What thousands of projects were provided, were put in, and you have some agents that become notorious. Federal Cooperative College or G River. What exactly that agency? Why do he gets a chunk of project that inserted into his budget? National Productivity Center. Even the main Ministry of Agri gets that same way. Then you now see an agency that is supposed to be a Federal Cooperative College. It is a school now building a town hall. Almost 800, 900, 1,000 kilometers far away from the school. And you tell me that's not about that's not accountability. What is the capability? What is the technical capability of the Federal Cooperative College or G River to deliver a church, a church hall for an Anglican community? What is within the scope of that school? And if you look at the body, a lot of this session, it has nothing to do about the capabilities of those MDAs to deliver. So the executive is losing his powers to actually steer the budget in the side of development.
I thought some of my producers would be able to get some of the items that can make ad bleed, or in this kind of country that we belong to, support for traditional rulers and chiefs, support for language studies and arts in Bayelsa West Senatorial District, provision of security patrol vehicles in Lagos, like you mentioned, National Center for Agricultural Mechanization, Ilorin, anchored, all of these projects anchored on them. Oji Federal Cooperative College, Oji River. There are hundreds of projects anchored on that. Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, 2,470 projects. Federal Ministry of Work, 263 projects. Seun, we need to go. 30 seconds to wrap up. Where do we go from here?
I think the president has to step in for me. And I said it clearly, if the president doesn't step in, if he thinks I will close my eyes and let go, this is a brazen attempt not to make development happen. He has to ask a question. What exactly is the purpose of the federal government here? And he has to come to a political solution. I don't think maybe a legislative solution is a way out of this, because I believe to some extent the budget being a law can be adjusted, can be amended, can be tweaked. Assembly. He needs to set a cap for what can be inserted in the budget. And I think that's best as a political solution.
What worries everyone is not the fact that this project will go into the constituency, but the fact that at the end of the day, this project shown budget and Channel Television, we've done documentaries on constituency project that never get completed or even get off the ground. Money goes into the pockets of individuals. Thank you so much, Seun Onigbinde, co-founder of Budget. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you so much, Seun.
I appreciate it.